Love them or hate them, Formula One sprint races are at the center of controversy right now. Well, you know about a prime illustration of why some fans are furious? The argument for change is raging, and there's a call for revolution. Do you think that it's going to be changed for new recommendations? Right? Yes, it may be different. This video will tell you all about the call for revolution and some of the recommendations made by F1 teams. If you want to know how Formula One is changing the face of sprint racing, then stick to this video until the end. Residing anywhere in the UK in the case of the American leg of the calendar, the races are on late at night, which isn't the end of the world. However, in the case of the Austin sprint race, which was on at 11 p.m., they are either earlier in the morning, which I don't mind, or in the afternoon, which I love. They don't give enough to be exciting. Instead, they seem to be stuck between a practice session and the race, as I frequently observe in the comment area. Guys, is the competition considered a race in the true sense of the word? Yes, the cars line up on the grid and compete against one another for an hour, but it's not a true race because only a small number of points are up for grabs that won't affect the outcome of the championship. The little goodie bags with pens and lanyards inside are similar to the afterthought gifts you receive at conferences. That's how it feels when you're racing on a track. Nobody's going all out because every driver has a race to win. In the back of their minds, they are aware that if they make a mistake on Sunday that causes them to be disqualified from the race, they may have to pay a penalty on the grid or start from the pits. To make sprint races more thrilling, as we saw 4 cars do last Sunday, they either need to give large prizes to incentivize greater racing, or they need to have no bearing at all on the main race on Sunday, allowing drivers to go all out. To see a surprising victory like Oscar Piastri pulled off a few races ago signify more and elicit a stronger emotional response at the end of the season. They also need to appeal to us, the fans, ideally with higher prizes. Oscar's 8 points from the Qatar sprint won't mean much. Max Verstappen's victory in the most recent sprint race hasn't made him any less of a fan of the format, since he feels it detracts from the excitement of a major PRI weekend. Verstappen said that after the thrill of Friday's Grand Prix qualifying, Saturday's track practices felt dull. He remarked, "I just feel like once you've completed qualifying, you're a bit lost." As fans, I'm sure you can all relate to that sensation. I don't get thrilled about it. Since its debut in 2021, Formula One has altered its sprint format annually. This year, drivers will have an additional qualifying session on Saturday before the sprint race. It seems like there should be just one qualifying session over the weekend where everything is on the line, and it feels fantastic for Verstappen to have won the sprint race this morning from Paul's position. You put it on P1, but I'm thinking, this is Saturday. There aren't that many points for the race. It is a sentiment that I'm sure many of you share. Max also feels that the sprint race now takes away from the Grand Prix, so it doesn't bring the same excitement because, well, it's just for the sprint race, which again doesn't represent anything. We've run this race once and everyone very well knows what will happen with all the cars in terms of pace tomorrow, so it loses some of its thrill. Everyone is giddy as they turn on the TV because, well, you never know, and ironically, we now know that Max was proven to be wholly incorrect. Nevertheless, this is another piece of the troublesome sprint race puzzle. On Sunday, Pace's RB19 battled, especially late in the race when Lewis Hamilton trailed him to the finish line. You wouldn't know what would happen before the race if you hadn't done it today, and we only had qualifying from yesterday. We can learn. People seem to find it thrilling, in my opinion. I enjoy the sprint weekends, especially on Fridays. I truly enjoy the format where you have one practice session before going right into qualifying. It appears that Formula One is keen to improve sprint races and is well aware of their problems. As Hamilton indicates, they can be, even though official suggestions for possible early modifications to the sprint format have not yet been made. News from 2024 claims that talks regarding how to liven things up at the paddock have started informally. Turning the Saturdays into a standalone Formula One Sprint Championship is one of the many radical proposals that are reportedly already being considered, according to motorsport writer Jonathan Noble. This would also help prevent a recurrence of the kata scenario, in which the driver's crown was won in a sprint event rather than the main Grand Prix, as any points won on a Saturday do not count for the main F1 championships. Bringing on a sponsor and offering a sizable financial incentive for the winners up to $1 million on its own could be one way to entice drivers to take the sprint format more seriously. The notion of a sprint championship has been mentioned in the comments section of our films. The incentives offered would have to be significant enough to motivate drivers to compete. However, if you can secure a sponsor, watching the McDonald's Sprint Championship, which pays out $1 million check for winning every race, would be interesting. Guys, how do you think a reverse grid system could impact the competitiveness and excitement of races? One concept that seems to be routinely discussed and is supposedly being considered is a reverse grid that is based on the driver's championship or main race qualification. Before the weekend started, there was a lot of action on the track when Logan Sargent and Daniel Ricciardo faced off in the first corner. In 2021, Liberty Media, the owner of Formula One, made a concerted effort to introduce a reversed grid to the World Championship, but drivers strongly objected, comparing it to artificial competition akin to what we see in World War II. However, in a shocking interview given following the sleeper meeting on Saturday in Austin, Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali continued advocating for reverse grid races. The Red Bull team boss acknowledged in Austin that Christian Horner brought it up with the media to inject some interest into the races by implying that the current sprint format isn't good enough. Whether you flip the top 10 or do something else, I believe you need to add a little more jeopardy to it. You also need to add enough points so that drivers will be motivated to truly go for it. I never imagined that a Formula One team principal would request something of that nature, but here we are. Toto Wolff, on the other hand, is adamantly against the concept and has stated that F1 should do away with the sprint race format completely. I'm a conservative when it comes to racing. He stated that if we start interfering even more and holding more reverse grid races, we'll move closer to a junior formula format where sport comes first and entertainment comes second. What makes Formula One so appealing is that it features genuine competition between teams. Creating artificial gaming around the Saturday sprint race is something that, in my opinion, all teams, including Stefano, should consider if it is best for the sport, he added, adding that the honesty of the stopwatch is what draws us in. Whether the sport ditches the sprint, introduces bigger prizes, makes them a separate championship, or reverses the grid, there will always be opposing views on this topic. However, one thing I can be certain of is that those who are set on something won't be dropping anytime soon. Formula One wants them and will continue to refine them until they are successful. Do you think the sprint race is a success or a failure? If so, what would you do to make it better? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We will catch you in the following video.